All right, I want you to picture, if you will, the most legendary, fearsome, and dominant pirate in all of human history. You know, when we think of the golden age of piracy and the rulers of the waves, our minds usually rush right to images of grizzled men with cutlasses commanding these chaotic, mutinous crews. But what if everything we've been led to believe about the greatest pirate who ever lived is, well, completely wrong? Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're setting the stage for a cinematic look at a figure who didn't just participate in piracy, but absolutely dominated it, becoming the undisputed sovereign of the South China Sea.
Okay, let's dive into this. Who was the world's most successful pirate? Seriously, really think about it for a second. If we measure success by the sheer size of a fleet, the number of followers, the total inability of formal governments to stop them, and the ultimate outcome of their career, who actually takes the crown? We're going to challenge some of your preconceived notions of pirate history today, because the real answer defies almost every stereotype we have.
The world's most successful pirate was a woman. I'm going to take a brief pause right here just to let the sheer weight of that fact settle in. In a fiercely male-dominated, incredibly violent, and chaotic underworld, the absolute pinnacle of success was achieved by a brilliant, strategic female leader. And this wasn't just a fluke or some short-lived reign either. She built a literal empire on the ocean that was entirely unrivaled.
Let's move to Chapter 1, Rise to Power, and see how this builds, because understanding where she came from is absolutely essential to appreciating what she ultimately achieved.
Back in the early 19th century, she started her life in deeply marginalized circumstances, working as a prostitute. But her trajectory shifted dramatically when, sometime later, she married a notoriously famous pirate captain. Now, for a lot of people, the story might have just ended right there, living as a powerful man's wife. But definitely not for her. Upon his death, she faced a critical crossroads. Instead of stepping aside or letting the fleet fracture into total chaos, she boldly and decisively took absolute control of the entire pirate fleet herself.
The name you need to sear into your memory is Ching Shih. She's the former prostitute who married a notorious captain and ultimately took control of his fleet. She didn't just inherit power, she seized her own destiny. She recognized a massive vacuum in leadership and stepped right into it, transforming herself from a marginalized woman into the undisputed commander of a floating empire.
Chapter 2, An Unstoppable Armada. We're shifting our focus now to the sheer, overwhelming scale of her operation. Because look, this wasn't a ragtag band of thieves on a few wooden boats.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this staggering number, 300. Under her direct command, Ching Shih had an astonishing 300 warships. Just try to visualize that for a second. 300 armed vessels acting in total concert on the South China Sea. This represents a level of military infrastructure, strategic planning, and naval coordination that rivaled, and in a lot of cases actually surpassed, the formal governments of the world at that time.
And to man those 300 ships, she commanded an army of 40,000 pirates. 40,000! I literally have to emphasize that because this reality is just awe-inspiring. Ching Shih wasn't just a captain, she was the supreme ruler of a massive, floating city of outlaws. The logistics alone, feeding, paying, organizing, and maintaining discipline among 40,000 hardened pirates requires a level of administrative genius that is frankly hard to even comprehend.
And this brilliantly illustrates the geopolitical reality of her reign. On one side, you have Ching Shih's immense and incredibly powerful fleet, and on the other, the formal Chinese Navy, the establishment. And the fact is, the Chinese Navy simply possessed a total inability to defeat her. She was literally invincible against the greatest regional power of her day. They tried to stop her, they tried to break her armada, and they just failed completely.
Chapter 3, The Peaceful Amnesty. This total military dominance brings us right to the climax of her story. Because when an empire realizes it's completely outmatched by an outlaw, what exactly do they do? Let's walk through the sequence of events that forced the government to completely yield here. Step 1. The Chinese Navy repeatedly tries, and repeatedly fails, to defeat her in battle. She essentially owns the sea. Step 2. Because they cannot win militarily, the government is backed into a severe corner and is absolutely forced to act to restore order. Step 3. They swallow their pride. They offer Ching Shih a peaceful amnesty package. Guys, this is incredibly rare in history, an empire practically begging an outlaw to stop by offering them a deal instead of a punishment.
So the crucial point is looking at the terms of this deal. If you know anything about pirate history, you know the stories usually end with a tragic capture, a battle to the death, or a trip to the gallows. But look at these terms. Ching Shih negotiated unparalleled victory conditions. She was allowed to keep all her plunder, every single coin, gem, and piece of treasure she had taken, and she was allowed to retire completely rich. She utterly defied the usual fate of a pirate.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. How did one woman, starting from the very fringes of early 19th century society, conquer the seas, command tens of thousands, and literally force a massive empire to surrender and pay her to retire? Her legacy is one of unprecedented success, brilliant strategy, and a peaceful, unimaginably wealthy retirement. It completely rewrites what we think we know about history. Thank you for learning with me today, and I really hope this sparks your curiosity to keep digging into the fascinating truth